When most of us picture a flood, we imagine water slowly creeping over riverbanks, carrying dirt and loose debris along with it. It is dangerous, but the threat usually builds gradually. A debris flow is a completely different animal. It is a thick, churning slurry of water, liquefied soil, and massive boulders that acts less like water and more like wet concrete rushing down a mountain trench. That immense density allows a debris flow to bulldoze through the landscape, generating enough kinetic energy to snap mature trees and shatter buildings on impact. Treating a debris flow like a normal river flood turns mountain valleys into sudden death traps. The reality is a moving avalanche of earth. On the evening of August 29, 1996, the residents of Pos Dipang, an Orang Asli settlement in Kampar, Perak, were taking shelter and preparing their evening meals. Outside, intense monsoon rains were battering the steep orange soil slopes of the surrounding Tidiwansa Mountains, thoroughly saturating the ground. In less than 30 minutes, a wall of mud and timber tore through the settlement. 44 lives were lost, and 30 homes were completely erased from the map. The sky rained water, but the mountain delivered a 50-kilometer-per-hour wall of destruction. How did a standard monsoon storm trigger such massive devastation with seemingly zero warning at ground level? The destruction of Pos Dipang actually started miles away from the village itself, high up in the Tidiwangsa catchment area where the heavy rains were falling. Continuous downpours strip away the friction holding those steep granite slopes together. Eventually, the heavily saturated topsoil liquefies and shears off, sliding violently down into the river valley below. Look at this cross-section of a mountain gorge. As that localized landslide hits the bottom, it dumps thousands of tons of soil and uprooted timber directly into the narrow river channel, which acts as a massive temporary dam. While the river downstream slows to a trickle, water pools rapidly behind this fragile logjam. Extreme hydraulic pressure begins compounding against the unstable barrier. The deadliest phase of this entire process happens miles upstream. The lethal energy builds up entirely out of sight and out of earshot from anyone downstream. Eventually, the temporary dam fails. The collapse releases all that stored water, along with thousands of tons of liquefied earth and timber, funneling it straight down the river bend toward Pos Dipang. Search and rescue teams arrive to face shifting mud deposits up to 3 meters thick, a viscous hazard that rendered heavy machinery useless for the first critical 24 hours. The slurry had also carried down massive intertwined root systems and heavy tree trunks. Extracting victims from this impenetrable tangle required agonizingly slow, labor-intensive work with chainsaws and manual rigging. Rescuers had to perform this grueling manual labor in the pouring rain, operating under the constant threat that the active slopes above them could trigger a secondary debris flow at any moment. Because rescue operations in a liquefied environment are so severely restricted, surviving a debris flow can never rely on a quick extraction. Survival depends entirely on early detection and getting out of the path. The tragedy at Pos Dipang forced a strict reevaluation of mountain safety protocols in Malaysia. First, the surviving Semai community was permanently relocated to higher, geologically stable ground away from natural river bends and alluvial fans. Forestry and emergency departments also recognized the need to proactively monitor upstream catchments, looking specifically for natural logging debris or temporary landslide dams after major rainstorms. They also had to rethink how steep slopes were managed. This diagram shows how an intact forest root system anchors the topsoil, compared to a carved logging road that destabilizes the earth, providing the exact loose material that feeds massive debris flows. These systemic changes reduce long-term geological risk. But if you find yourself near a mountain stream during a heavy storm, your immediate survival comes down to your own situational awareness. If you are near a clear mountain stream like this one, the first major warning sign of an upstream dam is a sudden, inexplicable drop in the water level while heavy rain continues to fall. That means a temporary dam has formed above you. The second indicator is a rapid change in water quality. If the stream suddenly turns thick, muddy, or coffee-colored and carries a fresh surge of snapped branches and foam, a massive slope failure has already occurred. You might also hear it before you see it. A debris flow produces a deep, low roaring sound, similar to a freight train, created by heavy boulders grinding down the channel floor. If you experience any of these signs, you must act immediately. As this diagram shows, you cannot outrun a 50-km/h surge by heading downstream. You must flee perpendicularly, moving straight up the valley walls to reach high ground. A mountain valley leaves very little margin for error. Understanding the invisible, upstream mechanics of a mudslide is the best way to recognize the warning signs and survive a debris flow.